Welcome back, everyone. Quite the controversy. What to do about this situation? As you probably are aware, yes, since the war in Ukraine started, there have been various issues with the supply of oil and gas from Russia. Consumers, we feel the pinch. We're feeling the burn in our rising energy bills. And then people were quite shocked to discover that big oil and gas companies like British Petroleum and Shell were recording record profits. We couldn't see any connection. How could they be charging us more and more for our gas just to cream off more and more profit? But it's more complicated than that. However, still, there have been calls on various governments for higher taxation on the petrol and gas companies, the oil companies, sorry. Are the government going to foot the bill to help people pay their gas bills, their higher bills, or should the company be shaking out its coffers and offering up some of the profit back to the consumer? As far as I'm aware, up until the time of recording, the governments haven't actually decided to impose any taxes on the oil companies, preferring to let the prices fluctuate with the market. But there is still potentially the ethical dilemma to debate. Have you heard much about this issue, John?
I've heard about the oil issue, that's for sure. Rising gas prices and energy prices, et cetera, from all of this type of stuff. I mean, we in our daily life have had a severe increase in our gas price. It hit, I believe, either in December or January was the first time it got real.
January for
me. And it almost more than doubled. And I was like, gas prices are still cheaper than I remember them being in America. However, way more expensive than I got used to in Korea. So I can definitely see how that has affected my mood when I get that bill. But yeah, it's I know about the situation, but I didn't know any of the complexities. I just know oil companies, record profits, and prices around the world, oil-related products skyrocketing, and war.
Yes. The trio of things seem to fit together. There is some connection between these things. That was about the level of my understanding of the situation.
Yeah, exactly.
I think, same back home. 80% increase in energy bills across the UK. And suddenly, like all in one go, it just went up overnight. And everyone was a bit shocked and complaining.
Yeah, I can imagine why 80% is a hard pill to swallow. I think that is, we did about 50%, or no, wait, I guess that would be almost double as 100%. So yeah, that's still pretty terrible, but I imagine the bills there are going to be like hundreds of dollars rather than, especially for a single family household.
Yeah, definitely.
Like myself, not so much.
But the UK government has stepped in with some financial assistance for the most vulnerable in society. So for pensioners, for those on disability benefits or workers' allowance, you can get some kind of help from the government, but not the oil company.
What other companies have profited from this war in Ukraine, and maybe which ones have suffered?
I think the aviation industry has definitely suffered a lot because they have to take very different routes. I guess it depends where you're flying. If you're just flying around in America, it doesn't really have any impact. But if you're going anywhere between Europe and the Middle East or even Asia, you have to take a much longer route. It causes, so you have to use more gas, which is the most expensive part of flying anyway. And, so more and more people also don't want to travel. The Russians cannot travel. They cannot fly in and out of Russia or Ukraine. So I think, yes, the airline industry has been
because I remember
affected.
flying over Russia coming back from America, and that can't happen anymore, which is probably why tickets to America are expensive, and I just realized that. They have to detour, because the Earth is a globe, and so the quickest point between Korea and America does go through the Arctic Circle. Okay, just pointing that out from a previous article.
We've got to make sure we know the Earth is round. Not flat.
As for profited, of course, every war helps profit the companies which are meant for defense. I'm sorry, defense. And so I'm sure that has done pretty well. Oh, and energy companies, I bet. Alternative energy companies probably are getting some good investments now because they're like, oh, we can't rely on oil, so we need something to help us out for next time. You know, God forbid there's a next time, but yeah.
Well, yeah. That could be like a long-term positive. Maybe we will end up building more alternative energy sources or clean energy sources like wind farms and tidal power and so on.
Nuclear power. That's a controversial issue.
Well, it could be great. It could be a disaster.
Yep. Yeah. No, we don't know.
Yes, the nuclear industry might benefit from this situation.
For the time being, I suppose.
So, I will let you go and rake in all those gems from the vocabulary section. Don't offset them until later. Let's go right now. I hope you enjoy learning them and using them in your everyday life. And we'll see you in the next article. Bye-bye.
Hard to swallow.
Hard to swallow.
Coffers.
Coffers.
Foot the bill.
Foot the bill.
Offset.
Offset.
Ethical dilemma.
Ethical dilemma.